So you guys are part of Amen.
Yes.
Yeah, we are Amen.
Yeah, we are Amen. We're the designers, we're the co-founders, we're
Of the brand that we've been pushing for a few years. After we studied fashion, and we just connected, I think, on an aesthetic base.
Yeah, we both love, things that are outside the box, bold, just daring to produce things that maybe are not available in the market, and if they're available in the market, something different, like just adding more pizzazz, drama,
And so we worked well together, so we thought, let's start a brand and let's see where it goes, and here we are now, still pushing.
Absolutely. The ups and downs, so since 2012, obviously, there's been ups and downs.
Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Abiah and Brad, you are the creative directors and the founders of a fashion line called Amen, based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yes.
Where did you guys find each other?
Okay, so both Bradley and I found each other at LASOF studying fashion. And during that time I was doing cream couture and then studying.
Yeah, and basically how we started was putting together little capsule collections and photographing them ourselves, putting campaigns together, and then using social media as a platform to get our brand out there.
And basically to just gauge if people were interested in what we had to produce and if it was worthwhile in terms of, investing in starting a brand and taking it further.
So were you guys in the same year at LASOF?
Yeah, we were both first years at the same time.
Okay, and when you started the line, obviously market research, were you working towards a graduate collection, or was this something that you were doing since you were in there?
Okay, well, you first go through the course, so first year, second year, third year, and then you do your graduation fashion show and your collection. Then after that, you start to decide are you going to work for a company in terms of send out, your proposals and your collection, or you start your own brand and create your own thing.
And we decided, let's try it ourselves and start our own brand. The name Amen it was the first name that we went for.
Because you always think, what do you call yourself? Like, oh gosh, can't we just be our names? But it's like you want something that just says this part is the part of your creativity in terms of the fashion line. So Amen was just that word. It just felt like amen, honey. Yes, the last letter. Just let's take it to the nth degree. If we're gonna do it, let's do it to the best of our ability.
And you started Amen the first year?
We started Amen once we had graduated.
Yeah, so first year of the real world. So after doing third year and graduating, we started Amen the following year.
Yeah, and then Abiah, whilst you were at school, you were quite a household name because you were part of Cream Cartel, one of South Africa's first reality TV show.
Basically.
I stand to be corrected.
No, you are so correct.
That
no,
is
very
the truth.
wise.
Pop culture.
Yeah. But we liked things, you know what I mean? So even while studying, I was part of Lamppost, so I was going to auditions for commercials. I just wanted to get into every avenue of, entertainment, fashion, the arts, and found myself part of Cream Cartel, which was a nice platform to just kind of, highlight individuals, trying to pursue their fashion dreams and what happens and how do you break into this industry that's, filled with lots of creatives. Yeah.
And then Brad, where are you in the scheme of things? Are you just a student, or are you also a student hustling, styling?
I was
working retail.
Yeah,
or you have coins, you don't do retail.
This one works hard. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was studying fashion, and then I actually went the fashion work route, where I was working for Pringle of Scotland, Ben Sherman, Mango, where I was the national visual merchandiser for these brands. And while doing, it was basically juggling the two jobs, having the full-time job and then after hours doing the Amen with Abiah. So I was trying to broaden my fashion retail experience and looking at the market and how we can apply it to our brand, which I think was a great experience.
Yeah. And then what did Amen stand for at that time?
Sure.
I think at that time it just stood really, honestly, just was like when you see someone and you just go, amen. So it was more a feeling of just like something that just like takes your breath away, or something that just takes your attention and goes, oh, that's something, you know, special, or that's something different. So at that time it really stood for, we're going in and we're going in hard, or not at all. Which was more an attitude.
Yeah, I was about to say, was it more about an attitude, a cultural attitude, or clothing?
I think the two meeting each other, as trying to make that feisty attitude meet or translate into an actual garment or collections or pieces. Yeah.
In hindsight, do you believe that you were ready, or was it a good move to start a line immediately after graduating fashion school?
Darling.
I think the question got to ask, when are you ready?
Yeah.
You know, and I believe you just got to jump in. And we jumped in, and we made a lot of mistakes. We've learned a lot, and I think the sooner you jump in, the sooner you learn the mistake.
Absolutely.
And how to move forward. It's not an easy industry, and you've got to really work at it.
Yeah,
what are the three top mistakes that you guys made back then that you saw never to make again, and you always cognizant of them right now in your business?
Charging. Like, obviously when you begin, you do a lot of freebies, and it's like, it ends up just being so taxing on you that you end up now just being exhausted and broke and tired.
It is important to do when you start out, you know, but it also gets to a point where you need to start valuing your work and your time, your craft.
The other thing would be...
And I think maybe a mistake, one of the biggest mistake is we could have developed some frustration, and it may have affected some relationships, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't charge, I mean, you're tired and broke, and then you snap, you know, basically. And I would say the other would be like production, like trying to refine the production before putting out your stuff. Because a lot of the times, you know, when you're young, you just put out collection after collection, but it's not made properly, or, you know, you're not able to produce those items again, and then
or
it becomes
retail
like
it.
so then it just becomes like you put out content, but then if people want more of it, it's like that's the only one, or, you know. So just also learning about production lines and how to refine what you want to create so that it's, you know, available and can be sustainable.
Yeah. And I think also one of our biggest learning curves or mistakes that we did make initially, we were very difficult to get hold of. We would be on social media, but,
oh my gosh.
but don't go into my DM because there won't be replies.
Sure, or it's like a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month after, and it's like, oopsie, babe, I only saw this now, you know, or trying to call us. It was just like, are they running a business?
Yeah.
But why do you think there was? Was something that you're doing cognizant, like you were maybe maintaining a level of scarcity, so you seem exclusive, that you're selling this dream that, oh my god, they're so busy, or it was just like, you know, I don't know how to run my admin?
I think it was just poor admin.
Absolutely.
And
no. We didn't like the admin side, and we fought it for a long time in terms of just hoping it will just miraculously fall into place. And it doesn't.
no, it doesn't. You've actually got to put in the admin work and put in the systems to make sure that your business can run smoothly. And those were challenges and learning curves that we had to
now we are
overcome.
more aware, and now we're more aware of them and try to be better.
It's not perfect.
No,
but
you know, full reply.
But at this point, are you profitable? Are you making money from Amen, the fashion business? therefore you're not so concerned about orders and running the admin because you are busy with other things that brings in the money.
I think
Because Abiah back then you styling
Yeah.
and Brad you in visual merchandising, you working for corporates
Yeah.
or
I think initially making money wasn't the main concern. The main concern was to try and get our brand out there and try and get publicity around our brand. And then you get to a point where you need to be sustainable. And the only way to be sustainable is if there is a constant cash flow
Absolutely.
happening in your business. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of young creatives, is how do we make your business sustainable financially? And fashion it has its ups, its downs, new people entering all the time, and trying to capture your target market and trying to get some money in your pockets.
And find sometimes a target market or a new target market. Yeah.
But I don't think it ever comes to a point where you can say you've made it.
No.
And you've made it financially. I mean, big brands internationally, we see them, they also go bankrupt. You know,
No, each season it's like you start again from scratch. So if you did well in the last season, it's like, what are you going to do this season that hopefully will capture people to support what you are creating? So I agree with Bradley. In the beginning, we were just creating, and it was just they either like it or they don't. And as you evolve in the business, it starts to be like, but how can we create things that we like and also attract a consumer, or else there's no point in just creating and creating for, you know, mannequins.
absolutely. And trying to get a positive number in that bank balance.
No, it's important. So guys, you gotta pay the bills. Hello. So that's why we do also different things. So yeah, to answer your question, we do the fashion, but we also do like part-time lecturing and styling. I mean, you know, some TV work. So it's always, you still gotta keep your toes in different arenas of an industry that you're interested in to kind of, at the end of the month, come up with a lump sum that is not a negative, you know.
Yeah.
And then in teaching, how are you designing your teachings for kids still in fashion school to ensure that the curriculum benefits them more than it did when you were in that position back then?
I think curriculums are set and academic information of what they need to learn. I think what we can pass to students is our experiences. And I know I do that a lot. I think Abiah does that a lot. And try to bring in actual practical situations or scenarios of how it works in the industry, and talk to the learners about what you've been through, because they're going to go through similar or maybe the same situation.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing is you can just try and pass on your experience to them.
And just hope that it makes them better at what, for them going into a field that they don't know anything of, other than the theory part. Because you know, it all sounds so nice when it's slide, oh yes, I'm a stylist, this is what you do, you just add pro, you just return. But when you actually, you know, give them the insight of how it really works on the ground, it just gives them a better perspective of what to expect when they go into the industry. So it's not so romantic. It's, you know, there is romance and there is, you know, the dream, but there's also a lot of hard work that goes into it, and a lot of just like the hours that no one will tell you about.
Yeah.
And then instinctively, do you feel that when you tell or you share your experiences, they get it? Or it's like, okay girl, you know, scare you, but you gotta go. And do you feel like in general, when you share your experiences, because you guys are like an institution, basically a fashion institution in South Africa, in terms of like where have you been in your experiences and your career path and trajectory, Do you think that when you share that with somebody, it's something that they will only get when they experience it for themselves, or they sort of get it when you look in their eyes?
Yeah, I think they sort of get it, but they don't take it that seriously. It's like telling one of your girlfriends advice about her boyfriend. She'll only get it once it hits her heart and it hurts. And girl, I've been warning you, but
stay away.
And
that's the best way to say it.
The penny will drop when they actually have to do the work.
Basically, yeah. No, really, you get a varied reaction. Sometimes it's just like, oh Lord, there she goes again, yara, 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 yara. But then sometimes you bump into them after they've graduated and they just like, it's not easy. And you're like, girl,
I told you.
Oh, you know what I mean? But I'm glad you're still in it and staying strong in that field.
And I think what's really nice about the fashion institutions, we are part-time lecturing now at Spiro Vegliotti, is that they actually provide opportunities for the learners to get real life experiences, from fundraising for their own fashion shows, work experience. The classes are trying to be as practical as possible, and through that they actually get a touch of the real fashion world and not pretty picture slides of what's happening at Paris Fashion Week.
You know what I mean? Yeah. When we know it takes a lot more to even get to that platform.
The crop of learners that apply and get into fashion school now, do you think that fashion industry as an industry is romanticized and they come to it with like a big dream? Because to be able to sell clothing, you use the mechanic that is fashion, which is smoke and mirrors, because it's a narrative and you have to sell a dream. Do you think they get more of the dream and then less of the hard work? And then when they get into fashion school, then there's a discrepancy, or they get in there, they're like, this is it, oh my God.
I think it's the 80-20 principle. 80% is hard work and not nice, and 20% is the fun part. And I think they do get that from the first year. Fashion may be romanticized in terms of what they're seeing, but then they've got to actually start making patterns, garment construction, technical drawings, and they see it's not just frills and flowers.
Like just going home and drawing sketches, and it's like you gotta take that sketch into like a pattern, a technical drawing.
Right.
And so if you start to struggle with those things and you're not interested in doing those things, you fall back.
And immediately from first year, you do see, like with any qualifications, people drop out, and because they do experience the realness of the industry from what is taught in the curriculum.
Yeah. So by the time, if you make it to third year, you kind of are starting to dedicate that you're going to push through in that field. But first year, second year, those trials and those, like the training to decide, do you really want to or not?
In general, where do you guys think we are in South Africa in the fashion industry?
Do you want my honest opinion? Or the PC?
Honest. I think we've been doing a lot of PCs and we're getting somewhere very slowly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I believe South Africa has great talent, but we lack platforms that can take brands to the next level. We lack retail platforms that allow it to for designers to be sustainable. And it's a confusing thing that we've had many conversations about is what is wrong in South Africa or even Africa, that South Africans will go to Zara, go to H&M, buy Nike.
Even Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton. But why aren't they buying Lokshan Culture instead of Nike? Why aren't they going to Makosa, Laduma, but they'll go and buy Louis Vuitton handbags? And
then they wait for, like, as a nation, we love to wait for the internationals to jump on. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh yes, we love that brand. But it's like, we'll sleep on a person until they're out of business. And then it's like, oh, we don't even know about that person. I mean, now Palisa just stood at H&M. All of a sudden everybody wants to buy her stuff. But before, it's like, you know what I mean? It's a struggle. And it's kind of like...
And they're probably only wanting to buy now because it's associated with H&M.
Of course.
And what is the problem here?
With us just valuing ourselves before, I guess, we get valued from that side.
Okay, let's try brainstorm a solution. What is a solution?
Well, currently a lot of designers are just trying to make it overseas and then come back this side with, I guess, an international stamp of approval. You know what I mean? That's kind of what the goal is, I would say, for most designers.
Yeah.
In terms of if you are pushing your creativity and you really are trying to, I don't know, find a market that takes you for who you are without you having to water yourself down, you gotta pitch yourself all over and then come back home, which is what's working now, as opposed to making it in your own home as you are and then jetting out. But I guess, yeah, we are developing as a country, so it makes sense if you're gonna try to push the boundaries. It's tricky to push them when people have other issues that they still wrapping themselves around in terms of, I don't know, xenophobia, racism, money.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's because now it sounds like excuses. It's just like, everybody get on board, get it together.
And it's, for me, it's trying to move away from that third world mindset, that we're not just here as a continent that can provide resources. We can provide gold, but you don't just have to buy a Rolex watch or a Michelle Herbland watch where that gold comes from. Why can't we be buying from local jewelry designers? The same with, in South Africa, we produce, we have some of the best wool that comes from South Africa, the best feathers that come from South Africa. But they're natural resources. Why aren't we able to sell end products to consumers, international and local? And that is, I think, the challenge for a lot of creatives in Africa.
Absolutely. No, it is.
Yeah.
Let's wind it a little bit closer. What are some of the things that you believe a man needs to take it from where it is right now to the next phase?
Other than the B word. It's always budget. Oh God. The big budget. No, but
we're moving into 2020 and it's a new decade. And I think we need to rethink of how we position our brand and where we're going to position our brand and how we're going to take it from South Africa and how do we get into other markets, European markets, Asian markets, American markets, and
other African countries.
Countries. And I think that is our goal.
Market access.
Yeah. And how do we just tap into other markets, and I think international markets. And I think once international markets are on board, I think local markets will get on board as well. I don't know. That's just me.
Oh yeah, it's a mix of everything, I would say honestly.
What's top in the list of the mix?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing is like a lot of the times we've kind of done a lot of things underground. So it's kind of taking our undergroundness and starting to do things on the actual ground. So I mean, we've done a lot of fashion shows, but it was always like underground, back to the city, you know, our own show, and maybe just starting to showcase on more formal platforms and give that a shot and, you know, hope for the best. You know, I mean, with our experience of the past, it's kind of taking that and going, okay, let's start afresh and give it another, it's another day and it's like another year, and just try again and hope that, I don't know, the consumer and the climate and people are just more ready to receive designs from their own. You know, you just gotta hope. And if not, then you go on tour. And you go, bye! You had your chance. You had your chance. Now pack my bag and I'm done.
Where would you go?
Oh, babe, all over. No, babe, I want to be on tour. Like, you can't stay in one area. You gotta jet around like Naomi. So, Angola, Europe, I mean, Brazil, America, you gotta,
Oscar Wilde.
babe, you know what I mean? Until everybody's going, yes, amen, yes, be a brand, more, give us more. You don't stop until, you know, you hopefully find that audience saying that.
Yeah, and we traveled earlier this year to Europe, and we did London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and then Milan Fashion Week. What we did notice with young designers and young creatives, they don't mind collaborating on a real level, and they really strive through collaboration. And what I've noticed in South Africa is, yes, we do like to collaborate, but we're also very nervous or scared that they're going to take my business, or
no, really, it's, you know,
it's,
or they're going to take the money, or, you know, we're not going to make enough money for everyone,
right.
So then it becomes a bit nasty.
Yeah.
Whereas you realize how small we are when we get that side, and how big they are, but they're also big because they work with each other to build such big brands that it's almost like no one can compete with them, you know, until you collaborate with a squad of different people who are experts in their own field of the fashion industry, the art industry. So that, yeah.
I saw a meme on Facebook that said, it doesn't make you a bad person if you tell your neighbor that there's a job open at your company. And I think South Africans are very scared.
Even if they're not applying for that job, they'll just be mad, I'm not gonna tell them. And it's like, oh lordy. We need to get over ourselves as, I think, individuals, and try to start looking at each other as like allies. I mean, really.
There's strength in unity. And a good example, bringing it back to South African context, a store that I've seen that has done very well was YDE. And YDE, when they started, they were very good at bringing young designers together and putting them on great platforms that made a very successful business. And I think it really worked well. And there was strength in that unity of this collaboration with these different designers. Yeah, then it was bought by Trubers, and that's a whole nother interview altogether.
And that we can't. That's none of our business. That's where we draw the line. And that's somebody else's business.
Speaking of which, somebody once told me that, like, some of the brands, or most of the brands in the YDE, they have names, but they're not like actual people. Like, it would be a Mary Brown. Which if you Google a Mary Brown, Mary Brown doesn't exist.
Well,
but I think that's where it was turned from the initial idea of having
young designers emporium,
yes,
to just
to making it a business, a store that has brands that might not have a face to it,
or a designer that's, you know, making money from being on that platform. It just now becomes, you know, quantities, also, units.
Yeah, because also like some of the retail models that we practice in South Africa are not sustainable for young designers.
Most are not.
You have to, for example, pay a rail for 5,000 Rand monthly rail space. you need to bring in your display, your hangers, your everything, and the store still takes 30% of your monthly sales.
Sure. Now you see, if the store can provide that kind of return, I guess it doesn't matter. But when the malls are the way they are, where most people are shopping at the international departments, and even that is dropping, you know, charging like that, you're just trying to kick people out of the market, to be honest.
Yeah. And also, you know, I believe, just like how we have legislation around affirmative action, BEE, why is that not the same for these big businesses, your big malls, that 70% of your vendors need to be local?
Yeah.
The rentals are so high at the big shopping malls that small businesses can't afford to pay those rentals. And it's only benefiting big international businesses or
anyone not earning in the rand,
yeah.
It's benefiting them, because then, you know, you come in and you do your exchange rates and you've got more money to afford the risks of setting up.
You know, and I think there needs to be a shift of, and I don't know how it is, but legislation is usually a great thing, to promote and push small businesses to actually, that they do have proper retail spaces to retail and their products. Because yes, the online thing can work, but it doesn't work for everyone, and it's a difficult.
It's a tricky one. I
It
think
needs
if
lots
you,
of money and robots. You can't
know what I
go
mean?
online. You can't just open up an online store and think that you're gonna sell.
Yeah.
and I
Doesn't
think you
work like
also,
that.
your merchandise is got to be appropriate for online, you know, which is a lot of more your ready to wear items where you can make them in big units. But when you're creating somewhat niche pieces and smaller quantities, online is also, I mean, people can't really try it on, you know, you got to have a lot of robots. Just march.
I think just also geographically where South Africa's positioned, we're very far. And if you try to sell online and you've got to ship it to Europe, honey, you've lost the sale.
Basically,
The shipping costs.
And our shipping costs are not cheap at all. That's the other problem. It's like things come in here so cheap, or they come in, but you try sending things out of here, and it's like they just, I don't know. It's very tricky.
Do you think our industry, the fashion and the textile industry, do we organize ourselves and we are own allies and we lobby each other and we just come together enough to find solutions?
Not at all. We kind of fight each other when it's like, darling, don't you see we're all on the Titanic? Like, we're all on the Titanic, but it's like, oh no, I want the lifeboat. And it's like, darling, are you going to swim by yourself? Girl, it's ice water. You know what I mean? We either just all try to row that boat or we all go down in it. But I guess that's why I'm like, people are leaving to hopefully make it on their own being abroad. But it's like, you know, by leaving, that doesn't sort out the problem. It just leaves other people to now try and find a solution.
Yeah, we definitely do need some sort of, I almost want to say a union.
Absolutely. Amanda! Fashion, you know what I mean? For everyone. And it shouldn't be also cliquey where, I mean, this whole system of like different cliques also kills, you know, it's like we're not yet big enough to be on that kind of, you know, shutting out certain people. But it's like, we really do need like a union that kind of like includes everyone and says like, okay, these people are on this level, these ones are on, and help each one be the best in that level so that we can, you know, grow an industry that is actually making money. And I mean, yeah.
You spoke of your future plans. You want to get back into platforms, uproot yourself from the underground scene and go above the ground. And you have tried before, and then you had can you clarify what happened with SA Fashion Week with your name?
Well, we were denied to showcase at SA Fashion Week because of our name. because it had religious connotations attached to it. And I think also the type of clothing might have been a bit risque and sexy, putting a guy in a Speedo and then calling it Amen.
Hallelujah. That was our attitude then, but you know, not everybody was saying hallelujah. They were kind of like, oh, Lord have mercy. So, you know, some things we've learned.
Yeah. And how do you think that just ironed out from there?
Because I think we were very, when we went into the industry, we were also very hard-headed. You know, we knew, I guess, in our own way what we wanted to be and what we wanted to put out, and we were very...
It broke our hearts to get that response, and we acted on emotion, and we took it to media. Media worked well for us, but we were emotional at that time. And
Mariah Carey, when they told her album, we were, oh hell no!
Yeah. And yeah, we fought it. We took it to the Human Rights Commission.
Drama.
Yeah. But you know what? There are other platforms besides SA Fashion Week, and I do appreciate the work that SA Fashion Week has done and what it's done for a lot of its designers. But there's also AFI, amongst other fashion weeks.
And
it's finding the platform that works for your attitude, because we came in with an attitude that I think, you know, the response was kind of like, girl, you need to be something else. And it was, I think that's what hurt the most, because it was, okay, but it should be diverse in terms of, I mean, fashion, as different brands, we come with different attitudes and energies. And if you sideline those that come with a different energy that you're not ready for, you know, you stop the diversity that is supposed to make the fashion industry exciting. People are supposed to say, I like this brand, I don't like that brand. But you know, if all the brands look the same, it's very hard to get excited, you know, because you're kind of looking at one big...
And also to clarify, it wasn't your personal attitude, it was the attitude of the brand Amen, how you positioned it.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And we tried to fight for that girl.
Yeah.
And it was no. Yeah. But yeah, she's still alive. She's still alive and ready.
And you didn't change the name?
No.
You just made it into an acronym, no? Or is it just still Amen, or
It's still Amen.
It's still Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
We
and
thought
that girl ain't changing.
not anytime soon.
Babe, you know, it's like, what was actually so weird, it was like, even now, Amen has become like a norm within the fashion, but it's like, it just feels like when we look back, it's like they, you know, said no to something that was not yet understood, but it wasn't done with the intention to offend anyone. So, you know, instead of trying to understand and then market it in the way that, you know, like maybe take out the guy in the Speedo, or don't put your branding over the Speedo, it was just, no, don't do that, or we can't work with you. So I think, you know, sometimes the way you respond to or advise young designers, it's in a way that either helps them instead of just shutting them down and not giving them a way to, you know, do what they do better.
And do you, with the foresight and hindsight of what happened, do you think you'll have future issues with the name? Because I'm asking, this is another local brand, I don't know if you know it, they were called Vintage Zionist.
Yes.
They also had to change the name because of the Zionist part of it.
And they went to the same fashion week.
Yes.
Which I guess they really do not want any connotations of any sort, you know, but internationally, I think our problem is that you can change yourself for the South African market, but it's not, we're not the deciders of, you know, the last word on fashion and fashion brands that make it. So if you really also have aspirations of making it overseas, you've got to still keep that identity and then, you know, find a way to still play in this playground with other kids, but knowing which high school you want to go to. Okay. Yeah. If you want to go to Harvard, you know what I mean? Yeah, keep your the thing that's going to make you also make a mark in Harvard, you know, while you're still in creche and you don't want to be like, oh, I'm that girl.
So what was the takeaway lesson from this experience?
I think from the experience that we learned, you know, although it did break our hearts initially, but we realized SA Fashion Week is not the only platform, and it still doesn't solve the bigger problem. We could have been showcasing there for 7 years now. It still lacks the retail buying side at a fashion show, which designers need. And I think that goes for all fashion weeks in South Africa. We have the fashion week platforms, but we lack
that full-on follow-up, you know, that just...
The ecosystem.
Yes.
Do you think that, I hear that, but then do we have enough retailers that can stock local brands?
But you see, that's where the problem also is, where that legislation needs to...
Our ecosystem is broken.
It's broken.
Some links are missing.
And not even missing, we put in the link with an international chain, and then it's like, darling, those franchises come in and soup, there's nothing left. There's nothing left for local is lekker, unfortunately, because I mean, it's easy to shop, you know, it's nice, you know, you just go, oh, faster, cheaper, you know, and these local designers, oh my gosh, these markups, and it's like, it is so much more expensive to make things locally. But I mean, if we had to support each other and have that ecosystem, it would become cheaper and it would become better to export our stuff as opposed to it being cheaper to import.
And
it is important.
How do we get the international buyers and retailers, boutiques, to our shows? Because that could make the difference by having those buyers at our shows, and
they gotta have a reason to want to come here, you know what I mean? So if we're not having that ecosystem, it's very tricky to entice them that, you know, these sustainable businesses happening right here.
And South Africa, we've got empty factories in Durban, we've got empty factories here in Hillbrow.
In town.
And it's really sad to see that these CMTs aren't active anymore. And we need a reboot, a kickstart, and just
get it together, girl. We need a bounce back. Yeah,
we need a bounce back.
We've taken on the heat. We've stayed strong. Now we need to bounce back.
Yeah.
Together.
There's this big talk about sustainability, which also brings the question of, do we need more clothes?
Yeah, sure. Well, you see, we're first going to kick out those that are not from here and then decide the ones that are local, what needs to retail. But we've got a lot of clothes. There is too much. If you go to a mall, there's times where I go to the mall and it is a bit traumatic in terms of there's just store on store on store. And sometimes each store is producing the same thing. It's a lot.
And every store is talking about sustainability, but
next season it's a new drop.
It's a new drop.
Oh wow, guys. Like, let's be serious. No, but let's be serious. If you didn't sell your old stock, why are you producing so much more? Like a full-on new collection. But you know, it's nice when you are a big brand and you can just go, that's in the past.
If you Burberry, you burn them.
Really?
Yeah, there was a big scandal with them where they caught them out that the old season stuff, they were burning them.
But you see what I mean, babe?
And they got a big hefty fine, I think. But
yeah,
if you for next year, if you have to go the rest of 2020 without buying a single item, would you run out of clothes?
Not at all.
No, you wouldn't.
And we'd be out of business if we had to.
I think that's why I just said no, we wouldn't. But like, girl, Black Friday's around the corner, and you can come to the studio for 20%. No, but you know what I mean. Like, no, but you start buying pieces that actually say something to you, as opposed to just buying that, you know, that item that's in now, and then next week you're like, I need another one.
I watched a great interview with Anna Winter and her talking about sustainability in it. I think fast fashion has been a huge problem in this whole sustainable thing that we talk about. And rather going back to rather save up and buy a more expensive piece that you'll keep for 20 years than go into an H&M or Zara and you're going to throw it away after 6 months, you know. There's nothing wrong with wearing something a few times over and having it for 20 years.
Yeah, clothes are not meant to be thrown away.
They shouldn't be seen as a disposable thing. It should be an investment. And hopefully consumers could actually start rethinking their spending.
But as we say, it's like a lot of the retail chains, I mean, they make it very hard. It's like, you know, when they put candy, as you walk out, or you're about to pay, you know, it makes it very hard to just say,
resist.
And I don't need so much of all of this. But now when you've got so many stores telling you each season, you're so outdated, we got to start talking to the retailers in terms of, guys, you know, what's the new message that kind of promotes a healthier shopping habit.
Yeah. and I'm sure you agree with me on this one, because it's not only limited to fashion, as you guys have a background of interior as well, is that everything it's designed to, even when you look at the houses that we're being shown that are pop culture, it's like big closets, walk in, the size of like a smaller RDP house, that's somebody's closet, and it's cupboards from ceiling to floor that need to be filled with clothing. Yeah. And there's this subconsciously this message that you need clothes, you need cupboards, more, fill your cupboards. Have, like, some people's closets, they look like department stores.
Yes. Yes. We love those people. But I hear you. But what's interesting with the interior side... We love that
for them.
Absolutely. But what I was going to say, what's interesting with the interior side is that people actually do invest in their homes. So they might, you know, they won't take those multiple risks with items that are frivolous. You know, they'll spend a lot on, like, I don't know, that wallpaper, that wall installation, that cabinets, that it lasts them longer.
The marble tops in their kitchen.
You know what I mean? And then they'll just spend on, like, scatter cushions, throws, bedding. So it kind of helps the industry in terms of you don't need more of everything. Like, you can't be redecorating your house every month. But, you know, you can spruce it up in different ways. You know, which fashion needs to apply that same kind of concept. You buy your statement pieces that could be expensive, but then you will accessorize with, you know, different things per season.
You transitioned from fashion to property, interior.
I'd like to say not transitioned, you know,
Real
we
estate.
just blossomed or expansion project, like just, you know, expanded into another avenue of the creative field.
We like things, and we're watching SABC3, and we saw that they open up applications for this competition, Win a Home, looking for design contestants. No experience in interior architecture, and we thought
just underground, in terms of, you know, you decorate a store, your own store, and you go, oh, but it's something,
I mean, I can,
you know,
fluff a cushion. And we thought, okay, let's give this a shot. So we entered, and we were the wild card. We were up against, interior designers that have been in the industry, architects, and we won. We ended up winning, and I think the judges appreciated we brought a different flair to interior.
And I guess an angle of how to tackle
interior. Yeah. We couldn't do technical drawings, we couldn't do...
But you know, we can explain. Fashion girl, I need the lights down. I need the wall, not this size like that.
I need an upstairs section.
You know, the fashion girls, I will give it to... We know how to dream and dream big. And we know how to really say, if we want to make something happen, make it happen. If we need to speak to the council, we were ready. Like, I need the plans changed, and
yeah, we were driving contractors crazy.
Lord, it was like, what force just landed? But you know, it was like, we took it seriously in terms of if you had to decorate a house for someone and, you know, you didn't draw and you didn't, you know, and you had the idea of what it could look like in terms of to be on trend and to be functional, but yet something special, this is how you'd go about it. But don't try this at home, kids.
But when you saw this opportunity and you're like, amen, this is it, we're going to apply. Is it like as a joke? Or it's more like...
No, we were very serious.
We were very serious, babe. I mean, portfolios, you know, but we're sending in like our portfolios of fashion and I guess the fashion pop-ups and the stores we've had.
Yeah, merchandising background of stores that are done. So we try to really motivate why we should be in this competition.
Absolutely. And after our
Find the
experience...
golden thread.
Yes. And after our experience with like Fashion Week, we kind of, you know, were very aware that they might just say, is this a joke? And no.
Yeah.
You know, so we weren't going in like we deserve to be there. We were just like, if we were to be a part of it, this is what we believe we would bring to the table.
Yeah, and then when we got a call back for a
Wow.
video,
We were,
we were ready, as fashion girls are. And
What are we wearing?
yeah. And yeah, we got shortlisted and then we were in the competition and it was an incredible experience.
Yeah. Also a lot of hard work. That's when I had a Kate Moss figure. I mean, the hours were, my word.
Yeah.
But
And it
also I think you came with the understanding of flair, pizzazz. This is television. I mean, Abiah, you came from a television background. You both came from like a fashion background. There's an element of entertainment, a dream.
And I think that's important because, you know, as designers, we're selling dreams that we then try to make reality, you know. So if people just are bored already by us pitching our ideas, well then,
honey,
goodbye to the whole industry, just switch us all off, you know. So we were ready to be like, if we're going to sell something, honey, this is very Mark.
Then do it.
No, but you know what I mean, come on. 100, 800, charge it. Hope.
Yeah. Then, do you believe that the walls all need to break because there seems to be intersections of industries? You know, you get and somebody who studied architecture, designing for a big French fashion house. You know, if you have done in fashion, you've done television, you've done retail, and you can motivate that. I can be able to sell houses and make or design houses that are sellable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's about having a creative eye. And I think, I mean, Tom Ford can direct films, which he does do. And
Beautifully so.
You know what I mean?
and it's because of his creative intuition. And you can apply those skills to various industries. You know, you might not know how to use a computer, but like an architect may have to, but you may have a vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's that thing of this concept of gatekeepers, you know. I think we need to look at who's at the gate of certain industries or institutions, and they need to be evaluated, or, you know, they need to just...
The padlock needs to be changed on that gate.
And that code, yeah, absolutely, because it's important to have people who keep the standards of an industry.
That's my new insult.
Padlock. You know, but with keeping people or keeping standards of an industry, we shouldn't be keeping out people who could be adding things to an industry just because they don't, you know, look the right part or like look right in terms of forms and admin.
And things evolve.
And that's the thing, you know. I mean, look at influencers. They went straight to the corporates. Give it up. Yeah, so it's like things like that. It's time to have those gatekeepers reevaluated or just non-existent until we know what kind of standard we're trying to go for, you know, industries.
Well, you just did African style. You jumped that fence.
Enough stage. Ooh, my lord. Thank you, my lord. All right.
Oh, man.
Don't make us look like bitches.
Because I don't think our country likes too much honesty.
Okay, let's get to the meat and the potatoes of things.
Yeah.
Abiah, do your parents understand what you do today?
I think for my parents, always it was, can you sustain yourself in terms of what you want to do? So the more we become sustainable as a business, the more they are comfortable with what we do. You know, I think they would obviously always prefer us to be in a field that wasn't so, cutthroat and where there's up, downs, there's just so much politics in terms of the industries in the creative field. So I think they would have preferred us to go into industries where you just do your job and you get paid.
Brett, in the beginning, what did they think?
My dad is in retail, and he warned me, and he was dead against, don't go into this industry, and he's in it, and I couldn't resist it.
Yes, when you tell us not to go, it's the first place we start.
And so I think my parents, they do have a good understanding of what's trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. But I think they also realize it is difficult. And I think parents sometimes they worry and they're concerned about your future. How is this all going to pan out? And
are you going to have a retirement? Or are you going to be working till you go to the ground?
But I think that's what makes life interesting as an artist.
On the edge of glory.
Yes, we're always on that edge.
Oh Lord. Just don't call the landlords. Yeah.
If you're not doing this, what would you be doing?
I'd be a rich housewife. Just kind of charge.
I would travel the world.
A model. I wish. Imagine.
But you were a model.
Honey, a modeler. I'm talking a top model vibe. That's what I want to be in my other life. Yeah, a glamazon.
Yeah.
A madame.
It's difficult because before I studied fashion, I was actually in corporate. Because I first studied my BCom and I went the corporate route, and it was soul killing. So it's difficult to say what else I would do if I wasn't doing in fashion creative field. And I know the fashion and creative field can also be soul killing, but it's in a different way where
you chose the pain.
Yes, and you're driven by some sort of passion. So I don't know, I would be living on UIF. Something.
And what is this, where do you believe the passion is leading towards? What is the succession plan for Amen Design House?
Sure. I think it honestly starts with growth. Obviously, we want to grow as a brand in terms of, on all levels, production, in terms of demand, in terms of, just where you don't have to worry every month in terms of, are your units selling? Just in terms of, you just have a kind of, you're at a level where you do have different stores and you're more worrying about, creating your next collection, and certain departments are just running by themselves,
It's been a dream from the beginning to be a global brand, and the realization of it is that it's harder than what we thought, even to make it locally. But we've learned lessons, and we're still striving towards that end goal. How we get there, we don't know, but it will always.
That day, I'll be saying amen all day, every day.
But it will always be the goal, and which drives us.
Absolutely.
What do you know now that you didn't know then that you wish somebody told you?
Everything. Everything. I could have cut out a lot of stress. Everything.
What do you know now that you... Sure.
Sure, yeah, that's a tricky question because it really feels like everything. You know, when you look back in hindsight, you're just like, if I did know what I know now, good Lord, you know, maybe we would have already moved and done all the work we did this side, that side. To be honest, if that's maybe one, you know, you never know. That's I think the dilemma. But I think one of the things is, if could advise someone else, it's if you believe you want to make a global brand, maybe start out in a country that, you know, is known for fashion, so that the impacts that you do make are not just, you know, moments of inspiration in an area that it doesn't necessarily need or, you know, appreciate or welcome inspiration at that time. It was like you could have, you know, done it in a different area, and still there's no guarantee, but it, I think, would have been worth a shot. Yeah.
Brett?
Sure. You know, it's in. You know, you can always say, "I wish I'd done this and this and that," and it's kind of everything, from how we manage our finances, how we manage our admin, how we did our PR, how we created our collections. I wish all of that could have changed, of how we had done it. But we had to make those mistakes, we had to fall, we had to bruise, so that we learned those lessons and we can rise from them. And
if you girls don't want to be in this room again, don't. Basically, that's what those lessons teach you, is that then you don't want to be back in that room where you are just like, eye roll.
Yeah. It's like, and it's like getting a new hairstyle. Just try it out. You know what I mean? And it might not work for you, but your hair's going to grow again.
Absolutely.
And
that's actually how it works, you know.
And you've got another chance next season, you know?
I believe in...
Amen.
This is a collective answer.
Oh,
absolutely.
Well, you got your 2 A's, girl.
What is your daily prayer?
Every day we pray. Every week we go to church. But I think a daily prayer is just to get through the day, and how do I become a better person
through that day? Make it a better day for others and ourselves. Yeah, and hopefully just that the world does get better.
Yeah, it's a nasty world out there, and it's a nasty, and the industry that we're in is also, it's a nasty industry. And how can we be a positive force, as small or as big as it is, in our industry?
But is fashion industry really nasty? Like this idea of like nasty, frivolous...
No, I think the nastiness comes in.
It's cutthroat.
It's nasty because we all feel like there's not enough for everyone. So a lot of the times we either don't work together, we sideline people, you know. If one gets in the door, you close that door, or you get locked. You're like, ain't nobody coming in after me. And it's like, you know, those things do make it nasty.
It's challenging.
I guess you can look at it like that, you know. But if someone had to be a judge, there'd be, kids, don't be nasty. You know what I mean? Like, get yours, but also if you're able to help the next person get theirs, you know, we're not saying go out of your way, but do your best, and, you know, do your best to also try help those that are coming behind us to make it easier. You know what I mean? Because there really is enough, I believe, of the industry in terms of obviously the broader spectrum of it for everyone. But we all got to work together instead of against each other. I sound like Mother Teresa. Yes, but you made a mark.
I guess we'll end it on that note. Thank you very much, guys.
Sure, thank you, Jerry. I hope our business is the business.
Your business is always the business. Yeah, for you. Great.
Sure, now back to work, girl. You made us feel like we're on a holiday. Oh, Tyra Banks.
Ciao, man.
But thank you, babe.
Thank you.